All righty. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this Thursday, November 4th, for our Small Business Bootcamp. We're really excited about today. Today is our 200th webinar, and I'm glad to be hosting with you today. I'm Robert Theobald, Small Business Ombudsman and Vice President of Small Business Services at the Arizona Commerce Authority. And as we like to do, if you haven't been with us before, we like to kick these off by thanking all of our community partners. We could not do these bootcamp sessions without our community partners, their time, their effort, and their expertise. For those not familiar with the Small Business Bootcamp, it is a webinar series that we do every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 9 a.m. And it is designed to help small businesses return from the COVID crisis stronger than ever. We work with our community partners throughout the state to make it successful and bring you awesome content. And aside from the webinars, it is also a resource collective and a content library. So let's dive deeper into what those last two pieces are. The resource collective are additional tools and guides that our community partners have brought to us to share with businesses in our community. Things on guidance, business essentials, marketing strategies, and more. You can find the link to this website on our Small Business Bootcamp homepage. About the middle of the page, you'll find the resource collective link. I mentioned is a content library. We've been recording all of our bootcamp sessions since we started in April of 2020. And as I mentioned, today is our 200th webinar. And we've been able to record just about every one. There's a few that due to licensing requirements, we weren't able to record them, but we have over 180 recorded webinars and presentations that small businesses can access anytime they want. There's no cost to access them. And you can use them to help review the previous sessions you may have missed or refresh a specific topic. Or share with others. If you know business owners that might need something, you feel free to share the link for one of the topics that may be beneficial. It's an amazing resource that we have available, again, at no cost to any small business that wants to leverage this information. Some other information resources that are available is the state has put together a COVID information and resource page for everything COVID related. It's arizonatogether.org. And then the Arizona Commerce Authority set up the COVID-19 business resources website at azcommerce.com/COVID-19. And that page offers additional business guidance for any size business, as well as some links for financial information for different grants, funds, loans, etc. may be going on at the local, state, and federal levels. So with that, we also like to share some of the ACA's programs to help support small business. We have our Small Business Services, our Workforce Division, and our Arizona MEP, our Manufacturing Extension Partnership. All three of these divisions are here to support small businesses to grow and become stronger throughout the state. Also, for those entrepreneurs out there looking to start a small business or grow a new product line or new part of your business, we have our Small Business Checklist. And the Small Business Checklist is an interactive online resource that helps entrepreneurs to understand the commonly requested licensing, registration, and compliance needs at the local, state, and federal level. So with that, we want to jump into some small business updates. First, Small Business Saturday. We like to share this because a lot of people don't know what it is. With a lot of the big box retailers really leveraging Black Friday and the online retailers leveraging Cyber Monday, the SBA and other organizations created the Small Business Saturday, which is nestled in between those two other events for the holidays. And so we're going to post in the chat a link to a great article that shares information on how you can leverage Small Business Saturday for your small business. Also, we're going to post a link about some recent grant announcements that the governor had within the past week. There's going to be some information about those going out. Some of that grant information, the grant itself was announced, but the details of the grants have not been shared yet. but we will post those organizations that are managing those grants in the chat, and we will update the information as it comes out on this webinar series on the bootcamp. Also, the Maricopa County Small Business Resilience Program was launched recently, and we're going to post in the chat again some resources for that program. And then we want to remind everyone the Employee Retention Credit is a great program with some significant funds that may be available to your business. Please check with your accountant on that program to make sure you can leverage it. So with that, we want to look at some upcoming sessions. Well, of course, today is our 200th session, talking about our veterans business programs as part of the SBA's National Veterans Small Business Week. And we're glad to have it. And then some upcoming sessions over the next few weeks is the ABCs of starting a business. Then we have a Maricopa County Small Business Grant Program. That's a special session that's on a Wednesday morning. Because Thursday the 11th is Veterans Day, we will not be doing a boot camp on Veterans Day. And then the following week, we have Return Stronger in 2022, and then money decisions for a Return Stronger holiday season. So really excited about the content we have coming up in the boot camps. We hope you can join us for those future sessions. And with that, we will jump into today's sessions. Here are some of our speakers today. We have Jim Pipper from the SBA, Robert Garcia from the OEO, Monique James with Renegade Creative Media, Christy K. May from Legend Acres, Don and Sheila Richardson from Aspen Communications, Ed Willis from WW Associates Management and Consulting. So we will hear, first we're going to hear a message from our CEO, Sandra Watson, and then we will hear from Jim, and then Robert, then Christy K, then the Richardsons, then Ed Willis, and then we'll wrap up with Monique James. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we're going to hear a message from our CEO at the Arizona Commerce Authority, Sandra Watson. Lisa, you'll need to share the sound.
Hello, I'm Sandra Watson, President and CEO of the Arizona Commerce Authority. I am proud to welcome everyone for today's special Small Business Bootcamp on veteran business programs during the Small Business Association's Veterans Business Week. Arizona is home to over 500,000 small businesses, making up the backbone of Arizona's economy. Last year, Arizona took an all-hands-on-deck approach to support our small businesses, from facilitating millions in small business grants to helping restaurants expand and sell cocktails to go. One of our most successful programs, launched in April of last year, was our Small Business Bootcamp and Resource Collective. The program offered small businesses in every corner of our state free training on important topics like federal loans and workplace safety. What was envisioned as a 6-week program grew into one of the ACA's most successful initiatives over the past year and a half, culminating into today's 200th session. 18 months later, over 21,000 people have registered and participated in over 1,100 hours of programming and counting. In addition, the entire Small Business Bootcamp library remains available on our website to help small business leaders continue to serve their customers. We're pleased to be joined today by Jim Pipper at SBA and Robert Garcia with the Office of Economic Opportunity to learn today how the resources made available for veterans can be used to fuel their business's growth. Thank you to Local First Arizona and 130 plus local community partners who have worked with the ACA over the last 19 months. Your partnership makes Arizona the best state in the country for small businesses. Thank you and enjoy today's programming.
Excellent. With that, we're glad to have Sandra share that message with us. We're going to go ahead and turn the time over to Jim Pipper from the SBA.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Now, Jim Pipper. I usually like to start this by telling everybody how I have several titles, but my favorite and most important title is Veteran Business Development Officer. There's one of me in every district office, all 67 district offices across the nation. And I am surrounded today by my fellow veterans, and I want to thank each of you for participating in this. I know some of you very well, and some of you I need to get to know a little bit better. Several years ago, I ended up doing, I guess, what you might say was a pretty good job. I was asked to reach out to veterans in whatever way that I could, and I took that task seriously, and I ended up winning a national award. It's in my signature line. A lot of people have heard part of this story, but I was selected as the #1 guy in the country out of 67 SBA offices for outreaching to veterans. And for that, I was given the privilege and honor of going to Washington, D.C. and standing tall with the President of the United States on board to introduce the many veteran champions that were in the crowd, as well as our National Veteran Small Business Person of the Year. What an honor that was. I remember my wife and my boss at the head table looking at me, and I'm on stage. The president hadn't arrived yet, and my knees began to shake a little bit as out of my right eye, I could see the president's entourage coming in. And I thought I was pretty good. I'm used to speaking publicly. So I thought this ought to be a piece of cake. And until I looked at my boss and my wife, and the president came out on stage and he kind of did that little stroll he was famous for, and talking about George Bush W. And he kind of did that stroll, and he must have saw my knees shaking, and he came over and he put his arm around me and he said, "It'll be okay, son." What a proud moment that was. But let me share with you that today is just as proud a moment for me as it was standing on that stage, and for the many efforts that I did prior to that. I'm not going to say how long me and Don and Sheila Richardson have known each other, but we've known each other a while. And we met when Don was trying to run his business, and he had a hiccup and some issues that he needed to go over. And so I was introduced to him, and the rest I'll let him tell you about if he so chooses. But we've been marching to a beat ever since. And same with some of the other presenters, but there's a lot of stories. I don't have enough time to tell about all the stories. But what I want to share with you, it's very important that the attendees that are listening today and have joined us, when I say, and I just asked several callers yesterday that were reaching out to me in my office, I ask you, I say, so what kind of a relationship do you have with this person or this entity or this organization? And when I ask that question, I don't mean, well, I talked to that person and I kind of know this, or I've been married for 36 years, and we're still learning about our relationship with my wife and I. And we have a great relationship, but it gets better over time. It just continues. That's what I'm talking about. So when I met Don and Sheila, and we got to know each other, we are now almost fireside chat buddies, are we not, Don, Sheila?
Yeah, are indeed.
Thank you so much. Ed Willis, another guy that I've kind of gotten to know a little bit. Robert Theobald. I don't just say I know Robert. Robert and I march not only to the beat in something like this, but we know how important it is to build a relationship. So when I mention relationships, I mean, how are you doing working with whoever you're trying to work with? So a guy said to me yesterday, he said, well, I won't mention the bank, but we were talking about financing, and he said, yeah, well, I kind of know them. And I said, well, kind of isn't going to get the job done. You really have to get to know them. And I'm emphasizing that because as I've got to know some of the people that have come to me and come in my direction for help, one of the things that I've been able to do with them is some pretty cool things. So let me tell you, I'm a storyteller. So let me tell you about a Navy SEAL that I met a while back. And he was a little unhappy because nobody seemed to want to pay attention to his idea. So he was about a foot taller than me, and he was a Navy SEAL like my friend Don Richardson. And I thought, well, I better be careful when I respond to this person, because he's trained to kill people, and I didn't want to get him too upset. So I asked him, and out of my mouth comes, so how can I help you? And he says, well, I was camping with some of my Navy SEAL buddies, and I kept breaking the bottle openers. I was trying to open up some beers, and I kept breaking these bottle openers. So I got an idea about creating a new bottle opener. And his name, by the way, his first name is Eli. And so I said to him, Eli, tell me a little bit more about what you got in mind. And he wanted to take 50 caliber rounds that the military stockpiles after they're shot off, and the brass shell holdings. And he wanted to put logos on them. And his idea was to eventually sell them all over the world. And I said, well, that sounds like a good plan. And now here's the short version. And I'm proud to tell you. He formed a company called Bottle Breacher. For those listening, you can check on your phone. You can simply Google Bottle Breacher, and you'll pick up Eli and Crane and the name of his company, Bottle Breacher. And he's now selling those all over the world like he wanted to. This is from a conversation he and I had. And one other thing happened. We were able to get him on ABC Shark Tank about that one, on the veteran episode that was aired. And it's been recorded, so you can check that out too. And Eli will happily share that link with you. And he got a deal from the guy that most people like to hate on the program, Mr. Wonderful, the bald guy, and the other guy, Mark Cuban, that owns the Dallas Mavericks. And he got a nice deal out of them, and he parlayed that into a magnificent story. Now that's from a conversation that Tim and I had. That same program, there was another gal that major from the United States Air Force that had met me, and her name was Angela Cody Roger, and she had a little company called Major Mom. And she was an Air Force major, and she got pregnant, and she decided to give up her commission. Whoa, big decision. And become a stay-at-home mom. And when she met me, she told me that story, and she said the stay-at-home mom tap dance lasted about 15 minutes. And then she decided that she better find something else to do. So she got busy, and she was an organizing mom, and she formed this little company, and she got on that ABC Shark Tank program, and she had won 4 national pitches. And I won't tell you how much she won, but she won a great deal of money on these national pitches. And she was an excellent pitcher and presenter. So she got on there, and just for one reason or another, and I won't go into the details, but she didn't get a deal. But Mr. Wonderful, like he likes to do on that ABC Shark Tank, told her, he says, I just don't like, he didn't say you're dead to me like he does to some of the contestants, but he got her riled up, and she said, now, Mr. Wonderful, I want to remind you that I was a missile commander and I had the keys to a nuke. And I don't think you should push me too much further. But if you don't want to give me a deal, I understand. And he didn't, but what she got some maximum exposure from the program itself. And when she got back to Arizona, her website had exploded. she took off like a racehorse. Did well. I'm only telling you these two short stories because these other individuals that you're going to hear from today are also folks that I have helped along the way. And when people call me, if you call me, you're going to learn very quickly within the first few seconds that I'm serious about helping you. And I mean it. One of the things I don't like having happen, and it happens all the time to all of us, is I don't like when someone says they want to help you, but they really aren't interested in helping you. And you know that almost instantly. Well, you won't get that out of me. And our office is dedicated to helping small businesses here. You heard Ms. Watson talk about the 500,000 small businesses that are backbone of our economy here in Arizona. Well, I like to include about 100,000 of those are veteran-owned businesses. And one of the things that makes a veteran-owned business stand out amongst the crowd, whether it's Eli Crane, or Angela Cody Roger, or Don and Sheila Richardson, or Ed Willis, or our other presenters that are here with us today, the thing that makes them stand out, they learned, whether they want to admit it or not, back in basic training. They learned, like I did when I was serving in the Air Force in basic training, how to follow directions. Is that right, kids?
Yep.
How to follow directions. Whether you like those directions or not, it didn't matter. They wouldn't ask you if you liked our directions. They instilled in us the importance of following directions, such as being on time. One funny story for basic training is they taught us how to make a bed. They didn't want us to make a bed our way. They wanted us to make a bed their way. And a lot of us didn't quite understand that, why they took such an interest in making beds, right, Sheila? And it didn't matter, how hard you tried, they instilled in you that you weren't doing it right. Well, eventually you got the message. And the message is pretty straightforward and simple. If you can't learn how to make a bed, as simple as that task might be, then what are you going to do when you have to face the big tasks? And that is exactly what it's like running a small business. And our veterans that are running businesses, like the ones that are going to talk today, yes, indeed, they have learned that lesson over and over and over. And being in the military, there's another lesson that we all learn, especially those that have served, those of us that have served in combat campaigns. It doesn't matter whether you serve in a combat campaign or not. You learn in basic training the importance of being part of the greater good, part of a team. Holding a hand forward and holding a hand back. Holding those hands together, we are much stronger. And so veterans know the importance of teaming. They know how important it is to get their arms around the services that are available. They're not bashful. They are really tenacious, you might say. But that's one of the trademarks of small business owners, whether they're veteran owned or not. And the successful ones, like my friend Eli Crane, learn that lesson well, and they continue to pass it on. And that's why the presenters that are here today are going to tell you their story, what they did, what they're doing, and how they have not only helped themselves, their employees, and their communities, but how they also step forward when asked to help another veteran along the way. So I think with that, I'm about out of time. Is that right, Robert?
Yeah, we got a few more minutes, Jim. Real quick question. What are some of the programs that our veteran entrepreneurs can leverage that are focused on supporting veterans and starting their businesses?
Okay, one of them, and thank you, Robert, for bringing that up. One of them was created in 2011, and I was the second one in the country to be part of the program. It's called Boots to Business, and it was a program that was brought out when the drawdown was occurring back in 2011, and the first one was done at Annapolis, and I did the second one out at the Luke Air Force Base, and I was tasked to do Boots to Business, and I remember asking my boss and the others at SBA in Washington, what's Boots to Business? And we didn't have any templates. We didn't have much to go on, but we put it together rather quickly. And it's now a integrated program in all branches of service worldwide. And if you're in the service and you're getting out, like many of the folks out at Luke Air Force Base, I was just out there, you can opt to take that track. And because a lot of veterans weren't able to get that program, whether it was because they got out like I did before it was created, or afterwards, and they just didn't take advantage of it, we have a reboot, a sister program called Reboot, Boots to Business Reboot. Some of the speakers that are on today are also presenters in that program. Don and Sheila helped me out with one of the first ones down in Yuma at Marine Corps Air Station. And we also have monthly something that we've been doing for quite a while. We've had a loan seminar in the morning. It just took place yesterday. It's the first Wednesday of every month. And these are all tagged in our website. And Robert promotes them as well at the ACA. And I want to say one other thing about ACA. Robert, for a boot camp thing that was only going to be 1 or 2 times, you've done pretty good. And whether Sandra gives you kudos on it, I'm going to. Nice job, Robert, and nice job for your team that's behind you, because you're like me. You can't do this alone, and we don't try to do it alone. Another thing I must mention is on that first Wednesday in the afternoon, we do a contracting event. And Mr. Ed Willis is going to tell you a little bit about that. So will Don and Sheila. They got on that contracting bandwagon, and it's kind of a nice advantage for veterans. So I'll let them speak to it. But Robert, that's just a few of the things we do. But don't stop there. We do a lot of others, and I don't have time to get into it right now. But we're not just sitting. We're not some government employees sitting behind a desk, wondering what we're going to do next. We are an active SBA office, and I like to say we're the best SBA office in the country. And we are run by the best director. His name is Robert Blaney, and that man helps us get it done. And so give us a chance. If you call me, you'll find out real quick what we do. So, okay, that's it, Robert. I think I'm out of time.
All right, thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. With that, the SBA office, we're fortunate to have an awesome district office in Phoenix. And I usually talk to Jim. We usually run into each other outside of Maricopa County. It's either down in Sierra Vista or down in Tucson or, somewhere else in the state. We connect and, share the different programs all over the place. So great to have that relationship with the SBA office here. With that, we'll go ahead and turn the time over to Robert Garcia with the Office of Economic Opportunity. Robert's also works with the veterans programs and works with the individual bases around the state as well on some things. So Robert, it's all yours.
So first of all, it's kind of a tough act to follow Jim. He had a lot of great stories. I don't know if I got that kind of stories.
Hey, Semper Fi.
Hoorah. So it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for allowing me some time to speak about our programs and what we do for the state of Arizona and our veteran businesses and businesses that are looking to employ veterans. I'm a Marine Corps retiree of 22 years. My tenure was between 1989 and 2011. I hit every campaign in the middle, and I can tell you that transition was rough, which gives me the purview and the drive to do my job very well, because I help with that a little bit. Just to let you know, in 2015, our Arizona governor gave us the Arizona Roadmap to Veteran Employment. And what that did for us was that opened up a lot of programs for Arizona to use to help veterans with their employment processes, to include companies looking to employ veterans. Some of these programs that were born out of that was Be Connected, the Arizona Veteran Supportive Employer Program, and the Occupational Licensing Program, which are all very good Arizona exclusive programs. The success of these programs have been great for Arizona. In fact, some of them are groundbreaking for the country. But what is the Arizona veteran population and the Arizona ecosystem right now for veterans? We are a home, and this is for the small businesses that are kind of new to Arizona, so this is a little bit of ecosystem purview. We are home to roughly 5 large bases. And of these bases, we have 2 that are Air Force, one's Army, one's Marines, and one's the National Guard bases. And they all have all types of skill sets, abilities, different, we call them MOSs, which are occupations, that come and go from those military bases. Of these bases, we have approximately 19,000 service members and their families that are stationed there. So that's quite a bit of people. We don't really know exactly the direct number of how many spouses and children we have, but we do know that there's really quite a bit. In Arizona, there's a population of roughly 527,000 veterans in Arizona. These are sailors, soldiers, Marines, airmen, and yeah, I would to guess that some of our Space Force is there as well. We don't really have those numbers yet either. 60% of that workforce is in the labor force participation rate. So they're actually out there working throughout our communities in the employment market. Within that, roughly 70% of our total veteran workforce have attended or completed college graduation or tech school graduation, or have even attended college. So our abilities on top of careers and all the military schools that we go through, which are a lot, we're also doing civilian accreditation as well. So we're trying really hard to compete with our civilian counterparts by attending colleges and finishing these opportunities. We have in Arizona a large presence of our reserve and guard, where we have roughly 15,000 Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, Space Force, and Arizona National Guard members in Arizona. And we contribute roughly 3,000 a year to our recruitment efforts from all the militaries. So you think about the career path from a veteran from start to finish, it all starts at recruitment. And I think most of my veterans here remember talking to the recruiter the first time and seeing the uniform on at your high school and going through that whole process. So we actually contribute to 3,000 of those a year, which is really, really, really good. So what does the Arizona Office of Economic Opportunity do for our veteran employment opportunities and enhancing our local companies to recruit these veterans and find these pipelines? The Arizona Office of Economic Opportunity and the Commerce Authority facilitates conversations that result in veteran employment and provide strategic recruitment for veteran candidates at no cost to the company. So we are out there in the communities meeting partnerships that can assist companies with their recruitment strategies. Some of these programs that we work with are the Arizona's we have a SkillBridge program, which is DoD, Department of Defense SkillBridge program. We have a Arizona Be Connected program. We have the Arizona National Guard's Work for Warriors program, USO's Pathfinder program, Soldiers for Life program, the VA's rehabilitation programs for disabled veterans. And we have a lot of other services that we work with in our workforce partnerships throughout the state. OEO, Office of Economic Opportunity, also works with the Workforce Council, which gives us the ability to talk about and contrast new ideas and strategies for the whole state in context to employment opportunities, strategies, and that includes veterans as well. We have successfully collaborated with all government agencies out of this office of all levels. We speak and work with all the military bases, and we have many strong private sector partners as well. So what we try to do is capture the whole ecosystem to help the business. In a nutshell, when a business comes to OEO and we talk about workforce and how are they going to recruit, which is a big deal right now, because I think a lot of companies are worried about where can they tap into to get their qualified applicants. I've heard from a lot of companies recently, within the last month, it has been a big deal. Pipelines have gotten slim. No one really knows the real reason why, but there are pipelines out there. And some of those are being able to attract these, our veterans and our service members and our reservists in spaces where they normally operate. For instance, the Be Connected program has a pipeline which you can, as an employer, can tap into, as well as the Arizona Job Connection from the Arizona Work Centers also has a pipeline that they can tap into. At the end of the day, our focus is to make sure that veterans and their families are given the proper opportunity to attain meaningful employment and a valuable career path, as well as ensuring that our business clients can locate highly qualified candidates from the valuable Arizona military community. On top of all this stuff, we also try to get involved in the conversation of employment, because we see so much of what companies are wanting, and we also understand the partnerships and what they're going through. When we do get a chance to put those ideas on paper, we partner immensely with the Arizona Department of Veteran Services, with the Arizona Department of Economic Security, and with the governor's office as well. And that's pretty much my presentation. But also, I just want to say that, next week is the Marine Corps birthday, so hoorah. And for all my veteran counterparts there, thank you for your service.
Excellent. Thank you, Robert. We appreciate that information and your service as well. With that, we're going to jump into having some veteran-owned businesses share their stories, their programs they utilized, and how they've been able to use their experience as a veteran to grow their business. So we're going to start with Christy May of Legend Acres. So Christy, it is all yours.
All right, well, thank you, everyone, and good morning. So I'm very happy to be here today. And so first of all, I am an Army veteran. And so with that, I started my business actually while I was still active duty in the Army. So I started my business in 2012. I didn't get out of the Army until 2014. And so what helped me along the way was that it was the SBA itself. So I contacted just the local SBA office at the university that was right outside Fort Campbell, Kentucky, the ASU. And so I started there with that. And so I built my business for 10 years in Tennessee, and then I moved to Arizona. And so when I got here, the first thing I did was contact the SBA. And so I met with Jim Pipper and sat down with him to get connected up to be able to open our second location here in Arizona. So we still have our location in Tennessee, and we have our second location here in Arizona. And so I just actually completed the SBA Emerging Leaders Program here in Phoenix. So we just graduated from that program last week, and that program was a great program because the business I started 11 years ago is not the same business that I'm in today, as a lot of you other veteran business owners know. It definitely doesn't look the same. And so we had to look at some of the things that we were doing. And so that program was very helpful with that. And then another program that I have been part of is Bunker Labs. And so Bunker Labs is new to Phoenix, but I was involved with Bunker Labs in Nashville, and then also involved with Bunker Labs here, as well as the IVMF at Syracuse University. And so I actually took my first veteran business course in Oklahoma. And while I was still active duty at that time, and I went and I took a business course at Oklahoma, and then the director of that program then moved to the program at IBMF at Syracuse, and so she had our contact information and asked us over, and so I've been part of that program now for 4 years. That program has been fantastic because they have programs for veterans who are just starting out in business, or they also have advanced programs for businesses that have been in business. And so that using those programs is how I built my business. And then with this SBA Emerging Leaders program that I just finished, I'm going to say that was the icing on the cake, because that made me look a whole lot deeper into just business processes, who our business partners were, and that was very helpful to me to be able to then be able to launch this and grow. And so our plans are to open a third location within the next 2 years too. So these programs have been absolutely fantastic in taking time to look at the processes of what we're doing. So a lot of times they say you can't see the forest because of the trees. And so when you're in the trees all the time with your business, it is hard to see the bigger picture. And so that's what I really love about these programs, is because they do make you step back and look at that bigger picture. And where are you going? Are you cutting your path in the right direction, or are you, circling back on yourself? And those have been some very beneficial things as a business owner to me, because those programs, they're time commitments, so they force you to take that time and to look at those things that are very important in business, instead of just going along with all the day-to-days. And so I want to thank Jim for getting me connected up with the programs that he has, because that has definitely helped me grow as a business. And so the business that we have is Legend Acres and Legends Heroes. And so what we do is we do dog training and service dog training. So, all right, well, thank you very much for having me on here.
Glad to. Are there any questions for Christy? Maybe we got a few minutes. If you have questions for her, post them real quick in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, and we'll get those over to
Sound like somebody got a question.
Yeah, somebody's got
Well,
one.
his question is why is the trash being picked up out front?
Uh-oh.
Excellent. We don't have any questions at the moment, so we will go ahead and turn the time over to Don and Sheila Richardson with Aspen Communications.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the kind words, Jim, and everything. It's been a great opportunity to work with you over the years. I still remember when Jim first came to Arizona, and we connected up in Flagstaff. We had a young man that had called Jim and was frantic, and he was about to do himself in. He just couldn't find anybody to help. And Jim said, well, you got somebody up there in Flagstaff that could work with you, a Marine and a sailor. And so we took the guy under our wing and got him introduced to good business practices. And we stayed in touch with him over the years. So we've been very fortunate. So we've had help from the SBA and SBDC and a lot of other people along the way. And we've tried to pass that on to helping other veterans in their businesses. Aspen was founded in 1999. So this was before the days of the SDVO. And we were founded as a telecommunications company, predominantly just doing telecommunications services in Northern Arizona. We use the SBA and the SBDC a great deal in the startup, and have consistently worked with SBDC and SBA over the years. So been a great assistance to us. As far as the SDVO, we actually became an SDVO in 2003, and I'm not sure if any of you folks remember, but that was the inception of the SDVO program. And Aspen had the distinction of being the first SDVO in the United States. And we know that because we got a call from Congressman Renzi when President Bush signed 106-183 and said, it's official, it's done. And by the way, you guys are the first one. So we've been delighted to be a part of the community from the inception. So it's been a really good run. When we became an SDVO, that is really about the time we entered into the federal, started entering into the federal market and leveraging the SDVO. It was kind of an interesting adventure because we would call people up and say, by the way, and at first they didn't even know what to call it. We were talking about calling it an 8D or something else, and then they came up with SDVO. But I remember calling a number of different contracting officers and saying, oh, by the way, we're an SDVO. And they said, well, we hope that penicillin will kill it. So nobody knew what it was. So it kind of educate a lot of the contracting officers as to what a service disabled veteran owned company was. And then in 2010, we became a hub zone. Our offices are located on the Yavapai Prescott Indian Reservation, and a large portion of our workforce are Native Americans. In 2017, we became an 8A. And so we kind of got the trifecta designations there. In the meantime, we evolved and went from being just another telecommunications contractor, and we became a general contractor, mainly because we were putting bigger and bigger projects together, and it required more outside of just the telecommunications. So we became a general contractor as well as a communications contractor. And we were experiencing a lot of difficulty along the way with hiring because at the time we were starting the company, a lot of people thought that being a telecommunications technician meant that if they had a screwdriver, that they were a telecommunications technician. And that isn't quite the case. So we kind of dropped back and looked at each other and said, well, how are we going to solve this? Because there isn't anybody else up here in northern Arizona. And Jim was scratching his head too. So Sergeant Major here put together the Aspen Apprenticeship Program and wrote it from scratch and initiated, got it approved by Department of Labor, got it approved by the state of Arizona.
And the VA.
Got it approved by the VA. So we basically created our own apprenticeship program so that we could build a base of installers and technicians and people that really knew how to do the job and do it according to standard and code and do it right on a national, international basis. So that was a big step forward for us. The only other apprenticeship program in the United States that's comparable to ours is the IBEW Union Apprenticeship Program. So that brought us, as I say, we did more and more bigger projects as general contractor, did entire main distribution facilities upgrades for Hopi Healthcare, put in communications towers down at Luke Air Force Base. And I got to watch all the F-35s run up and down the runway while we were doing it. Couldn't talk to each other, but we had a great time putting up the tower. So as I mentioned, we did along the way, we've tried to pay back, give back, and work with other veterans and help people in the community, both to start their own businesses. And as Jim was saying, a lot of it's and it was all working predominantly with vets, but a lot of it was telling these folks, here's what you need to do if you want to be successful, because 85% of the businesses that start up fail in the first year. Of those, 85% fail in the second year. So, we put some criteria down that said, first off, you got to write a business plan. You got to do, step A, B, C, and D. And if you're willing to work with us on this, we're willing to work with you, but only if it's a helping people help themselves. And, so that's been kind of our foundation from the beginning. I would like to have Sheila expand on the apprenticeship program a little bit. What?
Oh, sure. The apprenticeship is so important. We're great believers in education as far as on a personal level, but really in business. It's so important to have a good understanding of what you're doing, set your goals and move forward. And the apprenticeship program allows our employees to go through the training program. Their goals are set. They know what the next one's going to be. They know what's required. And of our graduates of the apprenticeship program, we now have 3 that have gone on to become engineers in this field. And so, yeah, they're doing very well. We're proud of their progress. And I think it's really helped people, even those that have stepped outside of Aspen and moved forward with their careers. We're so proud of them too. It's been a real opportunity to give something back in the field that we're working in.
So, again, we've tried to help other people, just as Jim and a lot of you folks out there have supported us. We want to give back. We still very much, we come from a teams environment, so we understand the importance of teams. We always say the power of 1 is 1, the power of 2 is 10. And working together as teams with agencies within the government, with other SDVOs. I remember calling a friend of mine down in Tucson, and I said, Gary, we need to work together. And he said, we're competitors. I said, I choose to think of ourselves as friends in the same business. And we have since gone on, formed teaming agreements. My comment to him was, Gary, you can't eat an elephant by yourself, and neither can I, but together we can. So working together as a team, and all of us working together as teams in helping other people to help themselves. I think we want to say thank you very much to Jim, the SBDC, the SBA, and the others who have helped us along the way.
The best people we've met.
Yeah.
In the state of Arizona have been people like Jim, people who serve the small business. And it's just made all the difference in the world for us, and we appreciate it. And just for a moment of clarity, I am not a sergeant major. I never was. I was in the 60s, and it allowed me to go to college, which wasn't going to happen otherwise. It made all the difference, all the difference. But the Marine Corps is the best.
I wish to differ with Sheila on that. If you ask all of our children, they will tell you, yes, that is the sergeant major. So
he did get that one on them.
Yeah. So we also like to recognize people that have risen above themselves.
Yeah.
Despite being an Air Force puke, Jim's a really good guy.
Oh,
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Don and Sheila. Great information that you shared. We appreciate that. Appreciate your service. We're going to jump over to Edward at WW Associates Management and Consulting. So, and I think Edward's going to have some slides he's going to share with us too. So,
Yeah, we're gonna see what we can do here. And that should be working.
don't see it. If you hit the share screen down at the bottom of the Zoom.
Let's go back. Let's do that again. Let's see here. I did hit this. Let's see.
There you go.
Okay. You get it now?
Yeah, excellent.
Okay. And anyway, thanks for the patience of working with me to make sure this was all set up. This is really I'll use the word an honor to not only the group of people that have been talking so far in terms of their dedication toward helping veterans, but also to all the participants out there. They got a bright future ahead of them if they'll follow some things, even that come out of this session. If they'll follow some of those guidelines, I have no doubt, like Jim said, with the military training that we have, that we're going to succeed. Anyway, I'm Ed Willis, and I'm the CEO of WW Associates Management and Consulting. And you're going to really be shocked at that title and how it really translates into what the company actually does. But I will tell you that we're service disabled veteran on small business. We've been verified by the VA, so we went through that process. We're also an 8A, so we went through that approval process at some point. And I'll shout this out to Jim. The GSA multiple award schedule, yesterday, we finally got the approval on that. So we're now on the GSA schedule. And so we have those that are there. And I will say a little bit more about myself, because that sort of establishes, eventually you'll see how all this comes together in terms of how we ended up where we are today. And so I am a United States Air Force veteran. Went into service when I was 18 and a half years old in 1966. Yep, I'm that old. But in 1966, I went into service at 18. And obviously that was during the Vietnam War era. And I ended up in the day they call it AWACS, but it stands for Airborne Warning Control. I was a radar operator. That's how I started when I was 19 years old. And by the time I was a veteran, seasoned, I became what they call an intercept control technician, which we actually controlled. I was air traffic controller, but airborne. And we controlled military aircraft. And we also bomb and airstrikes. And as a result of that, I flew on 120 combat missions. I was awarded 4 air medals for the time that I spent in Southeast Asia. And those combat missions translated into 1,100 hours of flying time. So from learning how to make a bed, and remember, Jim, they hit the bed, and if it came loose at the corner, you were disciplined. And anyway, but learning how to deal with that. Once I got out of service, and I did after my 4 years, so I'm a product of the kind of things, that was made available to veterans in most cases. So I went to college. I went to college after I got out of service on the GI Bill. And by the time I was done, I ended up with my master's degree in business administration. 4 years of that obviously was my undergrad work, and I went to school mostly and worked part-time. But once I started work, I worked on my master's degree, and Uncle Sam paid for the time that I did it, and at the very last class was paid with the very last money that was left. And so when I got out of through college, I did go work for the private sector first. I went to work for Allstate. They gave me a job out of college. I was working in management and administration type things. I was with them for a couple of years. And then I was recruited while I was working on my master's degree by my instructor who worked for the state of California in the Department of Finance. And he bugged me the whole semester about applying for a job with the state. I eventually did, and that eventually became my career. And I worked, by the time I was done with the state of California and with almost 30 years of working, I have worked in just about every area of government that exists. I started off in finance and administration, is what the core of my work was, but I did end up in a lot in environmental and natural resources. And I became sort of known as an expert in management and organization in terms of government operations. But this all means something here in a few minutes. How it all began for me was, even when I was working for the state, I started, I had an interest in consulting, especially management and organization. Somehow or another, this company, this little company, of course, we know what it is today, right? Called Brown and Root Building Company. They approached me about coming to work for and establishing a company that would be eligible for to be a minority-owned business. But they wanted me to develop, this sounds familiar, but what they wanted me to do was to help them develop a recruitment plan for to ensure diversity in subcontracting and delivery of services. This was in 1994. So this is before all the things that we're dealing with today have actually came fully into fruition. And so I did. I actually, while I was still working for the state, I actually did put together this plan with the intent that I would leave the state and actually go set up this business. Well, I was talked out of leaving the state. They wanted to appoint me, and they did. The governor appointed me the assistant secretary for the Environmental Protection Agency for California. So I worked for EPA. And so I couldn't resist that. Once they called and asked me to serve the country once again, I couldn't resist it. And I did do that. But that still didn't quite set the stage here. But here it comes. So I've left the state of California system. I'm still a young guy, retired from that system. And I came to Arizona 20 years ago with the idea that I would just do management and organizational consulting, strategic planning, how to run things, how to set it up, that it would be that way. Well, my next door neighbor, literally my next door neighbor, owned a construction company. And he kept telling me about, well, gee, Ed, if you get your veteran status, you can apply for, and you can also apply for the small business program. We can partner up and team, and we can do some projects. And eventually, after about 3 or 4 years, I said, well, let me check into this, see if it will really mean anything. As a result of that, in 2013, I established a limited liability company. Our main lines of business were the 3 areas that I primarily worked in, which was the general consulting area and environmental services. I worked at EPA, and not too much in construction, even though I had the operations that I was over construction and that type thing. And so anyway, I set up the company, the LLC in 2013. By the way, on our construction, we have developed an expertise in historic site building renovation. It's something that we created and developed by doing work at Fort Huachuca. And so, I'll move on. Anyway, we were certified and verified by the VA in 2013, and we were approved for the 888 program in 2015. This goes back to some things that Jim was saying in terms of the mentality of veterans. And I put this on here because we're doing all the rosy things, what's all great, but I want you to know it wasn't that simple in terms of where we are today. I was denied my disability when I applied for it with the VA. And you guys, it was so sort of disheartening. And the denial was they had no record of me serving in Vietnam. I was totally devastated over that. And I did something uncharacteristic. I took the file, almost burned it, but I put it aside and I didn't deal with it. I just let it sit in there. And my daughter, who's also an Air Force veteran, one day at Thanksgiving, we're around, he said, well, whatever happened to the disability that you're, and I explained what happened. And my kids jumped on me feet first saying, are you the guy that told us we never give up if we're doing the right thing? They turned the tables on me and made me feel so bad that I went and pulled that file back up and I said, okay, I'll go fight this thing. And of course, they picked on the wrong guy because I keep everything. I can tell you when I flew up and when I took off, where I landed, the top secret places, I got records, I got logs, I put this stuff all together. I got my evaluations from my commander, you know, saying Sergeant Willis was exemplary in combat. And so I pull all this stuff out, ship it into them. And, you know, they sent me the VA sent me a letter that had 9 words on it. And it says, but basically, I'm gonna leave it now. I'm sorry, just basically they're saying that, oh, we will now review your claim because I submitted all that information. And so anyway, but as I eventually, you know, won out on that. And when I say won, you know, it was a minimum thing, but it was important because that helped set up my services able on business, because that's an objective that I was trying to achieve. The other thing is, so that occurred. The other thing was I was denied my SDVOSB verification. So I submitted all the paperwork, and don't forget, MBA, I knew government, I knew how to write things, I knew how to package it, I knew how to make sure what Jim was said, do exactly what you're told. I laid this stuff out there, and they basically, they kicked it back saying that I didn't have enough business experience, essentially, is what it was. So then I had to go, so I went to battle on that and making the case and demonstrating all the different things I've done, the areas that I've worked and all this stuff. And so essentially we get that. Yes, I was denied the 8A business program. Yes, I was. And they're citing, and I sort of see what they're saying, but I disagree with it. But basically they were citing, once again, the lack of experience in terms from a business standpoint, you know. So I had to, once again, I made the case and the argument, you know, and as you guys know, I'm making it sound simple, but it wasn't that simple in terms of trying to convince these folks to change their position. So anyway, but they did. So I learned one of the first words I learned when I went to work for the state of California, and I worked in finance, and we supported the government, but we had to work with the legislature a lot. I learned this long new word. It was called notwithstanding, and like in spite of. So I learned those words, notwithstanding. So what I'm saying to you, notwithstanding all that other stuff, here's what we've done. We received our first government contract in 2016. We were named Small Business of the Year in 2017 by the SBA, SBADC. We're named last year for this thing that we're doing this week. We're named the 2020 Arizona Small Business Veteran Champion of the Year. And we just got awarded our General Services Administration Award. We grew from, now I've done different things over the years, and we had consultants and we've done different things, but I always hired, a lot of times I hired contract employees. You guys know what I'm talking about. Well, we had, at the most I had at any given time until up 18 months ago, 6 full-time, and then we had contract. Now we have 30 full-time employees over the past 18 months. We're up to 30 employees. And this is pandemic going on, right? And since the first contract we were awarded, we've been awarded as the primary contractor, 60 contracts. It's a fact of 61 to be exact, as the prime, and with value of 16 million. Back to this whole thing of relationships and what does it take to make these kind of things happen. what I have to tell you, you know, we had that success. I thought about the different agencies that helped us in terms of helping me get through, even respond. And in some cases, it's the same agency having me respond back to them on some things. But the SBA, you know, I cannot say enough about them. I cannot say enough about Jim and his commitment to just all small business. But of course, his heart is the veterans. But Bob Blaney, the boss, and Shivani DeRay, the deputy, and I can't mention the different business specialists we've had. They've been tremendous, and you have to use their resources. These people, they care, just like the way Jim talks. That whole office talks like that, and they really care about what's going on with their small businesses. And but I attended, they do that Jim mentioned the monthly training. I was a fixture in the monthly training for probably 2.5, 3 years. Every month, only time I missed a month if I was out of the country or something. In fact, I was at the training, I was down there so much, there were other people thought I was a part of the staff, the SBA staff. You know, when they come in to come into the different sessions and I'd be standing up at the door, they thought I was one of the greeters welcoming.
You did.
You know, and so, but the point is, you got to use the resource. Some things were repetitive, but doing contracting, doing business stuff, doing government stuff is very detailed, and you want to learn all you can and learn what's available to help you. I think that's so really a lot of help from there. The other agency is that I cannot say enough about is our Arizona Procurement Technical Assistance Center, especially if you're going to do the government contracting, if you go on that route. If you're going straight commercial, you know, but they'll send you to the Small Business Development Center probably, but the AD, Procurement Technical Assistance. So when I was doing a lot of, you think of the SBA as sort of the umbrella, the big picture and the theories and the principles and what you should be doing. Well, the AZPTAC is nuts and bolts. It's the bottom line. It's like down in the trenches, you know, helping you, you know, to get through some of the maze that you have to get through. And so, you know, they've really been very, very helpful in terms of what's going on. Small Business Development Center, they're pretty broad. These are all places, folks, I'm not talking about the fact they exist, and I'm talking about these places that I sit down across from a person, a counselor. They help me with my business plan. They help me with my capability statement, making sure that we had things figured out. Then the VA itself, with VetBiz, with the programs that they have a small business development coordinator named Kathy Fernandez that's been for years helping veterans, not only in terms of potential opportunities, but in terms of just doing contracting with the government. And so you had that VA that was there, and SCORE, which is the Service Corps of Retired Executives. They're business people, and there was counseling that they provide and advice and thoughts, and you know. But the bottom line is, you had a group of people that could, whether you're going the private sector route in terms of the business you're doing, or whether you're going the government side, you know, you've got the support to be able to do that. And so I can't say enough about, once again, the support that's been there. It's been pretty tough, but you know, we have our construction business is. And I mean the real deal, yeah. In fact, Jim was down visiting and called and made a comment. You'll see our trucks down there with the big banners on there. That's WWA down there, you know, doing this thing. And the other thing, Jim mentioned the loan program. We got lucky. I really got lucky. I was able to develop my business without borrowing. I did it, you know, and except for some borrowing for myself. But other than that, we were able to, our cash flow. And especially when you're dealing with construction, you have to have a pretty decent cash flow in terms of the projects you get awarded. The SBA has a bond program. So doing construction work, you got to be bonded on most projects that you work on. And so if it wasn't for their bonding program, we wouldn't have been able to get there because we never would have got bonded. But because of the that program that exists, which sort of helped with the guarantor side of things in terms of companies. So we got ourselves to the point now, guess what? We graduated from having to have a bond from the SBA bond backed up. So we're independent of them now on that. And so that's another success thing that we've done. Anyway, I've said a lot, but I just felt like I wanted to maybe get out a few things about what the potential exists for people out there. You're not by yourself. And the only thing I would say, and Jim will tell you the same thing, because he calls me all the time, and that, listen to us a little bit. When you ask us for advice, almost like your kids, right? Your kids, they ask you, but then they go do what they want. Well, why bother even ask? And so if you're gonna ask us, our time is valuable. And if we give you some stuff, we're telling you from the heart and we're telling you from experience. Thank you.
Excellent, Edward. Thank you very much. Great stuff. For everybody, I put in the chat the website for the AZPTAC and for the Small Business Development Centers. You may have to scroll through the chat to see those, but I placed those in there. We had a question about some of the mentoring for some of those programs. Reach out directly to them. They are experts at the government procurement. They are experts at setting up business plans with the SBDCs. The Arizona PTAC is housed within the SBDC in Arizona, and so they work very closely together. So you can't go wrong reaching out to them. So thank you, Edward, for that. Edward, if you could stop sharing your screen, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up with our last speaker. We've got Monique James from Renegade Media. Monique is a previous presenter on the boot camps. She's an expert at what she does, and she's got a great story. So Monique, the time is all yours.
Thank you so much, Robert. Hey, you all. Hey, Pipper. I'm excited to be here with you all. Having this conversation today, just all of the speakers have just been so amazing and just sharing all of the resources that they've leveraged. And I was thinking when Ed's slide was up about how we've all kind of found in our own way, found those same resources that have all helped us to leverage, and to build and grow our businesses. So yes, my name is Monique James. I am a master content strategist, and my company, Renegade Creative Media Group, works with service-based business and brand owners, and we help them get clarity in their messaging so that they can do their online marketing, social media, things like that, to build their audiences and to make money. But I actually have a confession to make to you all. I got a secret to tell you. Renegade Creative Media Group is one of two businesses that I own, one of two online businesses that I own. My other brand is Confidence Coaching. And I tell you that because it's been through my relationship and leveraging the resources that the SBA, the SBDC has provided that allows me to own two online businesses from this office in my house. So I started entrepreneurship. I never had an intention to be an entrepreneur. I kind of was pushed into entrepreneurship while working the only formal job that I had after getting out of the Army. I found out that I had a male counterpart who was being paid $10,000 more than I was being paid, and we did the same job, and I had more experience and I had more education. So this was before Sheryl Sandberg and Lean In was a thing, but I, like every good soldier, I prepared my documentation and I marched into my director's office and I asked to at least be paid the same amount as the male who was doing the same job. And I was told no. And I got pissed. And so that no was the spark for me to start to recognize that I could bet on myself. And so I continued to work that job. I stayed in that job, but I started exploring entrepreneurship and building something on the side. And at the time, my husband was stationed at Fort Benning. So we were in Georgia, and I started playing around and experimenting with building a side hustle, building a business online. Looked into different SBDC resources there in Columbus, but I didn't fully buy in at the time. And so when my family eventually relocated to Arizona, we're in Sierra Vista now. So I saw a few names that I recognize that are also in Sierra Vista. We're usually the minority when we get into Arizona events like this. There's usually only a handful of us, but it's okay. We're a tiny but mighty crew. But when my family relocated to Sierra Vista, I started to really see myself as an entrepreneur. And when I finished graduate school and I completed my master's degree, I decided that instead of going to look for a full-time job, I was going to give this entrepreneurship thing a try. And so I, at the time, had been blogging and really getting introduced to the online space and being a content creator and what that looked like, and started hosting events in Sierra Vista for women, lifestyle type events. And in 2014, I ended up hosting an event that packed out the largest conference center in town. And our event ended up on the front page of the local newspaper. And it was after that write-up that other business owners in the community started reaching out to me and asking me what I was doing. How was I getting people to come to events? How was I building community? What was I doing? And I just started, well, I'm leveraging social media. I'm doing things like this, doing things like that, starting to get an inkling that there might be something there, but still not ready to really explore it. And so one day I ended up going to a workshop hosted by the SBDC here at Cochise College. And I sat in the back of that room and listened to the presenter. And let's keep this between us. I said to myself, I know more about this than this guy does. If he's teaching it, I can teach it too. And so after the workshop was over, I walked over to the SBDC office and I said, hey, I just came from this workshop. Is this something that you all do regularly? And tell me more. And they said, well, yeah, we do these workshops. We had to bring this person in from out of the area. We're looking for somebody to actually teach social media. Our clients are looking. And I said, well, I kind of know a little bit about a little bit. How can I get in on this? And so that turned into a meeting with the SBDC director. And I walked into his office prepared to pitch myself to teach the 6, because every time a business owner came to me and asked for what I was doing, I wrote that down and thought, well, this is something that I could teach later. This is something that I could teach later. So by the time I had that meeting, I had 6 classes that I could have taught. And instead of having to pitch it, he said, let's do all of them. So that turned into a relationship with the local SBDC, where for about 3 years, I taught workshops all in my area, in social media, in digital marketing. And that was the key to really allowing me to see myself in this way as a business owner in a completely different industry. And so over those years, while I was teaching those workshops and partnering with them, I was attending the Boots to Business workshops. It was one of the SBA workshops at Cochise College that I first met Pipper. And if I'm not mistaken, he had the tie he's wearing now, he had on that same day. And I only remember because I complimented him on it. So he's wearing the same tie. But that's where I really got to learn about not just the resources that could help me build my business, but also the opportunities that there were for me to partner within that network with other business owners and figure out how I could fill gaps, because I recognized in my own entrepreneurship journey, it is so often I have discovered gaps or I've fallen in the gap and recognized nobody's doing this. Nobody's talking about this. And that has been the spark to start a lot of the things that I do. So I say that my confidence coaching business really gave birth to Renegade Creative Media Group. And it's been through the partnership and the relationship that I have been able to build with the SBDC, with the SBA, and really getting into not just observing and reading about, but participating in the opportunities that were presented that allowed me to build and grow my business. So like I said, I still consider myself a transplant to Arizona. My family's been here almost 8 years, but I still don't feel like I'm from here yet. So it's been really interesting for me when I meet other business owners and I talk to them pre-pandemic about what it is that I do and how everything is online and how you can flourish in your creativity and you can be interesting and you can leverage your personality and all of those ways that we can show up in the crowded online space and be different by being ourselves, standing out by being ourselves. While that is still true, I've also been able to really build the foundation for both of my businesses and talk about what I would call, Pipper, don't get offense, the boring stuff like managing your money and tracking your expenses and income and your P&L statements, all of those things that in the creative space, we tend to feel are less important. Those are the things that I got in addition to building the network and figuring out, again, how to create opportunities with new people that I meet. So my journey has been interesting. I've always considered myself to be somewhat of an individual. Even when I was a soldier, I was always kind of a little bit out of rags with my uniform, but that's just who I am. So, and that has definitely shown up in the path that I've taken to entrepreneurship and doing things in a very unorthodox, non-traditional way, but also leveraging these tested and proven and foundational resources that are available in my community and beyond. So that's my story. I am so excited and so honored just to be here with you all today and share this platform with all of these other amazing entrepreneurs. If Robert will permit me, I'd love to drop my links in the chat. I would love to connect with you all that are watching and learn more about what it is that you're doing, and we can figure out how we can do something together. Ed is already on my list. I wrote some stuff down while he was talking. But yeah, this is what community is. And yeah, I know a lot of us probably identify with moving from place to place to place to place while we were, in that military life. But when you are a business owner, it can be a lonely journey. So being able to have community and leverage community is so important. So I am so grateful to be here with you all representing Sierra Vista. And I'd love to know more about what it is that you're doing and connecting in an authentic way.
Excellent. Thank you, Monique. And yes, for our presenters, Monique, Edward, Don, and Sheila, and Christy, feel free to put your contact information if you want in the chat so others can contact you if they are willing, if you want them to, or we can connect them through us. Through the ACA or through the SBA with Jim. But really excited, great presentations by all of our businesses and our OEO and SBA reps that were here with us. Great stories. And I love hearing, one of the themes I heard through this whole thing was the SBDCs, the Small Business Development Centers. They are an amazing resource. They are available in every county. I work extremely close with them, and they are a great team in Arizona. And so I can, if needed, I can personally connect you with the center that represents your area. But we're going to leave the chat open for a bit more so everybody can post their information in there if they want. But we're going to go ahead and wrap up. We want to thank everybody for being with us today. It was a great way to celebrate our 200th webinar and support our veteran businesses. I want to thank everybody for your service in the military and to our country. I appreciate it very much. And I know everybody on here appreciates it. And so with that, we want to remind everybody of our bootcamp sessions next week. Join us Tuesday at 9 a.m. We've got another good session coming up. And Also, if you want to look at the SBA's website, I know Jim has another veterans program tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. That he is putting on with SCORE Southern Arizona. So Jim, how can they find out about that?
I'm putting the flyer out right now on it. It was a rescheduled event. We had a little electronic issue on the one we tried Tuesday. So it's going to be, we're going to send it out. I know it's kind of late in the day, but we're going to get it out so that everybody can attend tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, Robert. So you've already got it, Robert. You probably haven't looked at it because you've been preparing for this morning, but yep. Thank you for the plug-in. Yep.
Excellent. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up. Thank you for being here, and we will see you next time. Have a great day.
Okay, all right.
Thanks one and all.
Everybody.
Christy, good seeing you.